Hey kids, and welcome back for round 3 of our first season in F1 2019 as we jump back into the plucky underdog of Akara Williams and get ready to head to Shanghai for the 1000th race in F1 history. Alright, here we are back in the garage. Unfortunately, our first team goal, we failed. We had 2 races to reach that 14th, but they've re-upped us with the same team goals. So we have now 2 race weekends again to try and get to that 14th place. Thankfully, this time there are no development failures. Our rear floor under tray is good to go. And it looks like we're going to have a little bit of wetness at the tail end of qualifying, which we likely won't hit unless we're able to get through to Q3, which is very unlikely at this stage, but we are looking forward to a dry race at this point. So we're just kind of taking a peek at our rival progress, and we're going to take one look and see how the R&D chart is shaping up. Looks like teams are finally starting to make moves on getting improvements done on their cars. Mercedes and Racing Point and Haas seem to be the only ones that have really stood pat. Ferrari, Red Bull closing the gap, and the rest of these bottom marker teams are jumping up ahead of us as well.
Welcome to Shanghai, China, for what I've no doubt is going to be a fantastic F1 qualifying session. Now then, Anthony Davidson, you're not getting any younger, but you have been involved in your fair share of qualifying sessions in an illustrious 30-year career. How do you deal with the pressure when you have that one chance to deliver a perfect lap?
It's not so much about dealing with the pressure, it's more about how you approach the risk and just how much of it are you willing to take. You're constantly balancing the car on the edge of grip from braking, cornering and traction, and over the course of a lap, it's easy to get that balance wrong, and that's why achieving the perfect lap is almost impossible. As you say, I've been doing this 30 years now, and it never gets any easier.
Right, it's not going to be easy getting into the next qualifying session, but we know you'll give it your all.
Alright, so here we are getting ready. After practice, getting ready to jump into qualifying, just kind of taking a quick peek on the life of our engine. We're going to go ahead and rock and roll with what we've got. Alright, so jumping right into our first flying lap of Q1 and a little bit of a course tour here of Shanghai. There's a lot of compound and complex corners around this track. This first kind of uphill section combination really is a lot about trying to carry speed while bleeding it off to set yourself up for that very, very tight left-hander coming up. It's very easy to lock the front left tire as you brake into that zone, as that whole tire's unloaded. And there's the first kind of hairpin section. We're into a real first big high-speed corner set. Now there's some long straights on this course, which would make you want to think to run a low downforce setup, but there's also a couple combinations of corners that having that downforce will really gain you some time. So a balanced setup is kind of what we've gone for here, as you see another one of those compound double lefts. Now this sector right here is a place where you can really gain and lose time. It's a very long decreasing radius right-hander, and if you get it right, you can get full on the throttle early and kind of ride it out. But if you get it wrong, you'll end up with some pretty bad understeering. You'll end up having to lift, and it costs you down this very, very long straight heading into this very, very tight hairpin. So this is a huge, huge action point of the track. Is you have DRS down that range, you get a lot of a run-up and a very hard braking zone to try and outbrake people. And here we are into the last left-hander there. There's always a bit of a tricky one to get. There we are, finishing up with our first lap, and we're going to head back into the pits. So once we get back into the pit, we're going to check and see where we're shaking out. Right now we're sitting about 18th. We've out-qualified our teammate one more time. We're going to slap a new set of tires on. And we're going to wait till the end of the qualifying session to get back out on track. And so here we are finishing up our last flying lap.
Okay, there's 2
We've
minutes
got a
left in this
couple
session, and
tenths
we're
of
in
an
the drop
advantage
zone.
over last
Quick lap.
time. We're
Well, that's
still
qualifying
19.
over for us.
But here we're going across the line to finish up Q1. And we are 19th. So we managed to out-qualify our teammate, but not quite enough to jump any further up the grid. And we're still a little ways off of that P15 that's necessary to jump into qualifying number 2. So we are only 100th from moving one more spot up the grid.
It's time to find out which driver is up to the task of claiming the Chinese Grand Prix. We're here in Shanghai. We start a lap here at Shanghai with the long, difficult right-handers of turns 1 and 2, the first of 16 corners that make up this 3.3-mile circuit. The incredibly long back straight provides the best passing opportunity of the lap, with speeds in excess of 200 miles per hour before the braking zone of turn 14. With the Grand Prix nearly upon us, Anthony Davidson is by my side once again to offer his perspective. As with all the drivers at this level, they have a lot of ambition, but Formula One's a daunting step up from any other series, so expectations are high right from the start.
And this is something that has ended the career of many a young driver, as that leap up to Formula One proves to be too much. But luckily in this case, I'd say they're doing a good, solid job, and the risk the team took in signing them is definitely starting to pay off.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Pierre Gasly lines up on pole position and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Bottas, Vettel, Max Verstappen and Leclerc, Albon, Perez, Magnussen and Lucas Faber, Norris, Grosjean, Kimi Raikkonen and Hulkenberg, Sainz, Stroll, Devon Butler and Daniel Ricciardo, Oldtimer and George Russell ends our grid lineup. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
Alright, and here we are on the grid getting ready to pick our strategy for the race. We have the options between a 1-stop going mediums to hards or a 2-stop in the current projected. The personalized, we actually had some pretty good tire wear characteristics during some of our practice sessions, so it's also suggesting that we might be able to make a soft to medium compound work for it. And we're going to go ahead and give that one a try and see if we can't conserve the tires enough to make good. But here we are on the grid, on the back row, as the lights get ready to go out, and away we go as we get down the drag strip, heading into the first corner where we have that long twisting right and left. So we are setting ourselves up on the outside and see, like we've been doing the last couple of races, try and make up some positions early on and use this bunched up field to our advantage. So we have to delicately slot our way in through turns 1 and 2 as we get ready to look down around into the next hard braking zone. We're being a little tentative around here, but we have a chance to look around the outside of a 3 wide and they swing wide and have a little touch into us. We've managed to jump all the way up into 12th, which is about the highest we've ran early on this season. So now as the trains start to form, we really want to try and do what we can to keep in touch with the group ahead of us. We don't want to lose any of this ground. The longer we can keep up with these faster groups, the better shot we have for a better finishing position. Again, big resource points rewards if we're able to nail down that 14th position. And so here we are, first time down this long back straight. It looks like we've got Hulkenberg in our slipstream, so we're going to move to the inside to kind of try and head him off. He swings down the inside, and we have a late break, but we have to dive off to the inside to avoid from crashing into the back of our old teammate Lucas. A very scary moment as we almost plow right into it. Here we are jumping onto the back straight towards the end of the lap 3. We are once again under attack. And this time Hulkenberg is going to get a little more alongside of us. We're going to go ahead and try and outbrake him and get down the outside and get on the power early in this traction zone. Coming out of that very slow hairpin, you really have to be careful not to spin up the tires. Getting back up to speed is... You can really chew through your rear tires and cause some problems later on if that's what you're doing through that. But we managed to fend him off for a little bit longer as we get ready to settle into this section of the race. And here we come, still have the two Alphas right behind us as well. As we were able to avoid damage on that scary dive into the hairpin and keep our position up. So we're just again pushing ourselves as hard as we can, letting these soft compound tires kind of give us an edge. Hopefully we can keep some life in the tires as they start to die out, as there's a lot of different strategies going on, a lot of medium compounds around us. So we are likely going to be one of the first into the pits on our current strategy. So we want to make as much as we can out of this set of tires before we jump in to go for the medium compound. Now, I assume that a lot of teams starting on the mediums are going to also be one-stopping onto the hards. So running that suggested layout that we had the option to pick. But if we are able to conserve these tires enough, we'll actually be able to be running essentially the full race on a softer compound. As you see, I spin up the tires on the exit, lose a bit of momentum. Luckily, that's a pretty short drag into the next corner, so it isn't a huge miss. But it's definitely hurting the lifetime of these tires as Hulkenberg goes down the inside of us. And also Raikkonen is looking to get by as we had to give room to Hulkenberg, and Raikkonen is going to try and slot right in. But having the outside on that first corner gives us the inside on the next, so we're able to just barely hold him off there. We get ready to head down into the next hard braking zone. So we jump a little bit further ahead as we come down the last big straight as Raikkonen dives to the inside of us. We try to give him room around the outside. And he is holding us as we have the inside. So we are late on the brakes. We miss our brake point and go sailing past and off the outside of the track. Luckily there's a big runoff there, so we aren't collected by a wall. But Raikkonen has momentum, gets down, gives us a little nudge. And we have a little touch on the back end that loosens us up. And we lose that ground to Raikkonen as if we have to get completely out of the throttle to keep that car from spinning around on us. As he just came a little further off the throttle than we were expecting him to. And we had a little bit of a teeny tiny tap on him. It really compromises the balance of the car. But we've lost that position now as well as we try and chase him down. We are still in P13, so we're ahead of that stretch goal currently, but we don't want to really be giving up easy positions. But here we are 13 or 7 laps in, and we are starting to feel the effects of tire wear behind us. As you can see, some lockups into that corner. We are back on the throttle again through that long right-hander. Sainz is going to go ahead and look behind us. We're going to dive towards the inside and use that overspeed and try and get down the inside of us. Again, we're going to go a little bit later on the brakes. Leave some space. He swings out way wide. Really doesn't let us get on the throttle the way we wanted to. As we spin our tires up one more time, the tire wear is really starting to hurt our runs out of some of these slow corners. And we're down to P14. We jump ahead down the back straight of lap 9. We've been called into the pits this lap. Grosjean's by us. We want to try and cover up the inside of this corner as the pit entry is straight off of this next corner. We don't want to have this train really catch us as we try to cross it. So we are going to kind of let the next car pass kind of easily as we get ready to dive into the pits. As we pull in and get ready to jump on to our medium compounded tires. We're going to come out way behind the back of the field in last place, but we'll have plenty of clean air to run with. As we start on to lap 10 in wide clean air, we really just want to hit our marks for the next few laps. And we actually have a huge run of clean air as we jump. It takes all the way till lap 22 before we're really in contact with any groups. As all the pit cycles shook out, the field had really spread out, so we were able to do some fuel conservation through the slower middle sector since we weren't battling with any cars, to allow us to run in a richer fuel mode as we still hold that P14. But we've got Lance Stroll right behind us, who we've had some battles with in the previous tracks. Most notably, he had that issue in Australia. We kept him behind, but then he just absolutely ripped past us. But we managed to hold him off down that straight as we get ready to settle in, as we are going to be under attack for quite a while. As you see this tail end of the field train really backing up. And now we're doing our best here to continue to conserve our tires. This field caught us up a little bit faster than I was hoping to, just because as we got about midway through that long stint in clear air, I really had to kind of focus on conserving the tires. I wasn't able to be as aggressive into braking zones because I wanted to save some for the end of this race. By shaking out of the pit cycles in P14, I really felt we had a very good chance to hit that stretch goal this time. So we wanted to try to conserve as much as we could till the end of the race, as we have just about 5 laps to go, but Stroll is right on our tail, filling up our mirrors as we get ready to head down the next long back straight. And there you can see one of those instances where we got that corner a little bit wrong, as I had to get on the power and then lift. Usually you want to be fully on the throttle by the time you're climbing through 5th gear there, and any lifts in 5th is really just kind of hurting you. And so Stroll goes towards the inside. We try to leave him a little bit of space. He gets a little bit of gets down the inside of us, but we have a little bit of a better exit by taking that wider angle, and we're able to once again fend him off. But this train is getting tighter and tighter. And here we go. As you keep an eye on that right mirror, you can see Stroll just filling it up. He's right behind us more and more. And as my tires started to fall off, the pressure mounts. We're doing as much as we can to conserve our tires through these slower sections where we know that there's not good overtaking opportunities. Spending a lot of time adjusting our ERS modes, adjusting our fuel modes to try and make the best out of as much as we can as we try and defend this position. So here we are getting ready to set up down the back straight. Once again, we've got a little bit more of space to Stroll there, and we have a little bit of a better exit. So hopefully this keeps us from being under attack down this time, but he's still going to be in DRS range as we crank our ERS. He gets a good run up, you see there in the mirrors, but not quite enough to get by us. But we lock up and we go deep down that hairpin, giving him a chance to get down the inside of us. But once again, we have to try and defend, and we have a little bit of a touch, a little bit of side-by-side contact with him, and we nudge him out wide. That lockup kept us from being able to take that corner, and that costs him sometimes. And here you have Roman Grosjean get by us through this long right-hander. He is on the hard tires, meaning even though they are technically slower tire, they at this point have a lot more life in them as we try and put our heads down and chase him down. We want that 14th position back from him one more time. We have the Renault of Daniel Ricciardo behind us, and it looks that Stroll has kind of slotted in behind right there. So hopefully that little touch didn't do any damage to him and will allow him to still fight with this pack. Now, unfortunately, our teammate George Russell is just way off the back of this four-man battle right now. Alright, if he was able to get involved with it and make it even more interesting. Still being the slowest car in the grid, just doesn't quite have the pace to keep up with us. And here we have that five-man battle led by Grosjean, then us, then Ricciardo, Stroll, and our old F2 teammate in the Alfa Romeo, Lucas. As we absolutely send it down the inside of Grosjean to get that place back into the hairpin. We got a five-man train setting up here, and, well, George Russell not really even in frame at this point. We are leading this train as they bunch up behind us. As we come through this slower sector where it's really our best opportunity to save fuel and recharge that hybrid system to allow us to have some extra deployment to use down that long straight. Right now, those cars behind us, most of them on the hards, just biding their time.
Tyre update for you, and it looks like this set is coming to the end of its life. We don't anticipate having much more time before it's completely gone. The grip loss will be sudden, so be ready. Our gap to the car in front is 13.1 seconds.
And there it is, a word from our engineer that our tire life is starting to come to the end as we're starting to feel it. Look to try and block off Grosjean on the outside, but he gets his nose in there and we have a teeny bit of a touch, but we go ahead and try and outbrake him down the inside. We kind of nudge him out, and Ricciardo's going to follow us through that position as well as this battle behind us heats up.
Battery charge is low. If we turn down the ERS deployment, we can harvest
So here
more
we are,
energy.
about 2 laps to go, really feeling the pain in our tires as Ricciardo has the grip to go well around the outside of us. And Grosjean is back looking to stick his nose up the inside, but we managed to just fend him off there. As you see now, Lance Stroll is making a look on him in a little picture-in-picture there. So Ricciardo right in front of us is taking that P14 from us that we want for those extra research and development points that our car so desperately needs. But as you can see coming through these high-speed corners, our lack of grip is really starting to show. We aren't able to keep on the throttle as much as we were earlier on in those corners where the tires are being stressed in multiple directions. So Ricciardo's starting to spread out a gap to us. He's gotten outside of 1 second of us, which means coming through the detection zone, we are not going to be able to get DRS on him. And that is going to allow him to pull away and is also going to leave us susceptible to attack as Lance Stroll now has gotten back through and is again going to try and fight at us. So here we are holding the middle sector of the track there, trying to make Lance Stroll pick a direction to try and make the overtake through that heavy braking zone. And here we are, Ricciardo looks to be getting out of touch from us, and our chance of taking that 14th position
This is your final
and the
lap.
bonus
Final lap of the race.
is
Gap to
falling
teammate
away
behind
from us.
is
So it
10.9
looks to be
seconds.
that we are going to miss our chance for that bonus in the first of the 2 races that we get the chance to go after it. As that gap gets a little bit wider. Stroll is kind of sitting back from us in this middle sector, likely to get out of our dirty air a bit, recharge his ERS to set himself up for a go at us down the 3rd sector of this last lap. So it's important for us to try and get as good of an exit as we can out of these next couple long straights to try and open up a gap to Stroll. It's
We pretty much burned
6
up our
tenths,
excess
just
fuel.
over a
We'll
half
be
a
back on
second,
target soon. Don't wait too long to turn
meaning
the
he's
engine
going
down.
to be in DRS range, but we are going to burn our rich mix as much fuel as we can and all of our ERS deployment that we can. As you see, our teammate George Russell finally DNFs, has an issue in the final lap, was already running in dead last. As Stroll looks to go around the outside of us, goes for the switchback as we went a little deep and gave him some room, but we're able to get a good exit on him as he had to kind of tighten his line there. We're able to head him off in the last corner and cross the line and hold on to that 15th position.
That's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Ferme.
So we keep the same place that we had in our last race. No improvement really,
Yes, another
but we didn't
historic
slide
win
anywhere
under their
back, and that
belts.
was
Well done to the team at
that was a very tense battle. We had a huge
Davidson,
middle
how do you
sector of
think
the
they were
race
able
where
to
we were
set
basically
themselves
running in
apart
clean
today?
air, and it was very
Well,
much
this was a real team victory.
self-focused,
They put
trying
together a
to
solid
compete
strategy
with
today that
ourselves
appeared
and
well-suited
stay
to the conditions
consistent
out on
and
track.
put in
The
good
driver
lap
did
times
everything that was
without burning
expected
up the
of them in
tires,
the
without
moment to really
lockups.
execute the team's
And then
plan to
it came down
perfection.
to
A shining example of
the
how
last
F1
6
really
laps
is
of
a
the
team
race
sport.
where we were in constant defense mode as we were
after a
under
magnificent
attack
race, we can now see
heavily.
the drivers making their way to the podium. Once
We
again, it's
managed
the
to
Silver Arrows who
hold
take
off
top
and
spot.
stay
A
in
well-earned victory for
15th,
Mercedes.
not quite that 14th, but there you see Mercedes once again on the top step of the podium. Lewis Hamilton growing his championship lead. They get the 1-2, and Max Verstappen takes 3rd place to round out the podium here in Shanghai for the 1000th GP.
So let's review the updated driver's standings. It's a great result for Lewis Hamilton, who moves further ahead at the top of the table. Some amazing talents out on the track today. But Anthony, who would you pick as your driver of the day?
Well, often my go-to would be a driver who's managed to pull off an impressive feat during the race. However, in this instance, I was more impressed by Nico Hülkenberg's clean driving throughout the event.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. Meanwhile, Renault move up the table with another strong performance this weekend. Well, Ants, an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
Good day today. Let's have your take on it. You really cut your way through the field today.
Well, we
What was
use the
your
car's
strategy?
nimbleness to our advantage to make our way through the field.
Your team must be ecstatic.
Yeah, I'm
with
just
how you're
really glad that I
performing.
can live up to what expectations they have for me, as we haven't really been
Great.
out
Well, that's
qualifying
everything.
our goals, but we have been out racing our goals. So our race pace seems to be pretty decent. We are still kind of falling behind our rivalry with Albon, but George Russell has unfortunately had a tough go of races. So we get a decent little resource haul. Puts us at just shy of 1,000 R&D points. So we should be able to make some good use of that to try and get some upgrades coming. Alright, so here we are heading into the R&D tree, see what kind of upgrades we can make to get ourselves going. So again, aero is an area that we're really going to try and focus on. Aero and our chassis development. About the only effect that the interviews have is, depending on which departments you talk up, give you little bonuses here and there. So by saying the car was nimble was, a good props to our chassis department. So as you can see, we actually get a little bit of an upgraded price deal on some of the upgrades for that. So 448 for one of the intercooler, for one of our minor upgrades here. Whereas you saw the Aero was about 540. So we are going to go ahead and go for another under tray development. We have 545 left, so we have enough to drop in one more piece of development. We're just kind of deciding whether we want it the front or the rear, so we're going to go ahead with some extra rear downforce. So those are 1 week turnarounds, so we should have those hopefully for the next race, barring any development failures. And so there you see it, we're 3 weeks in, a 16th and 2 15th places. And you can see that we're starting to wear out our engine. Now, our next track, Baku in Azerbaijan, has some pretty long straights. It's a city circuit. So it's got a small, got some very tight corners, but a very, very long straight. So it is very much a power circuit. So we are going to be doing a full engine swap of all components to get our best engine in. This will not cost us any penalties by swapping these parts in here. We only incur penalties if we swap the gearbox before 6 races is complete, or if we are taking new components. Those 3 and 2 of various components there you see are unpenalized, but if we go above those, we will be penalized. And if we find ourselves needing those, we will likely take a full engine rebuild and a full set of penalty ones before or around the same time we take our gearbox penalty. Well, thank you again for joining me, and come back next time as we get ready to head to the city circuit of Baku for race weekend number 4 of this 2019 F1 career mode. Peace.